it'll save a lot of lives, and it'll keep a lot of people safe and let people go home with their fingers in their toes. And that's just the way we feel about it. And hopefully it helps the companies, because if you can enhance skill level and then you can enhance process level, more efficient, more better skill work, doing it right the first time, minimizing rework, you lower your insurance costs. There's just so much benefit.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today we are talking with Bobby Schaeffer about the Elevator Learning Center. The Elevator Learning Center was created to help provide a more advanced level of technical and safety training than is common throughout the elevator industry. The ELC is dedicated to helping elevator companies enhance their quality of service and to protect the riding public. It is also dedicated to helping elevator professionals advance their careers through education and training. Bobby, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk to you. I know last time we started, we were talking, you mentioned the Elevator Learning Center. And so I wanted to get a chance to really dig into that. Your passion for you started creating it. First, what is that about? And just give us some.
Well, I'll try and be quick on the history. Back in 2017, we were still struggling to hire good mechanics. We had some younger mechanics who are slowly coming up through the CET program. As you know, we heavily involved in that program with the National Association.
Sure.
And we decided to put out a email blast to a list of 23,000 elevator mechanics.
It's a lot.
And I can't tell you how I got a list of 23,000
I won't
elevator
even ask.
mechanics. But we sent out an email blast for about a week, a couple of times. And what we found was that no one was out of work. There wasn't a single reply. If there was a reply, it was, no, I'm good. I'm currently working in this area. I'm currently working in that area. There were just nobody available to hire. It was an amazing thing. We really thought we would get some feedback, 20 guys, 50 guys, 100 guys that, or gals that wanted a job, wanted to maybe move on or an opportunity to grow. And so that was back in 2017. As a result of that, D&D Elevator was running its own education program, and we had been since 2001. What we decided as a result of that was that we really needed an education and training center. So we embarked on building it out. We rented some space originally in Yonkers, New York, the birthplace of elevators,
Sure.
and or the modern elevator, I should say. And we built out a training center, and we started thinking about branding and came up with the Elevator Learning Center, a couple other different names, but we landed on the Elevator Learning Center. By the end of 2018, we had it fully built out. We started trying to enlist other companies to come and join us at the Elevator Learning Center. And we piloted a couple of programs, delivered a couple of courses, both in person and through remote learning, through cameras and online delivery. And it worked pretty well. And then we decided, okay, let's go right to the source. We went to a local high school, and we made a agreement to train up to 10 high school juniors and seniors as a pre-apprenticeship program. We went to the NAC, we got that approved. We got a new chapter written into the ANSI documents to make sure that we were satisfying all their requirements. And we interviewed 15 candidates. We chose 5. And classes were due to start April 5th of 2020. So as you can imagine,
There you go.
late March, um, everything hit the fan, and that was the end of the pre-apprenticeship. Schools closed. We closed. We stopped in-person learning. Continued the remote, and that worked well. But the in-person learning, which I think is important, just kind of fell by the wayside. So now it's a couple of years later, and here we are in spring of 2022. Uh, when when D&D sold its company, we also sold the Elevator Learning Center with it. And as a result, the new owners decided to make an investment, and they wanted to really build out. They felt there was a major need both for American Elevator Group and for anybody else who chooses to participate. So we started a major build out. We moved the training center, the Elevator Learning Center, into Long Island City. It's about an 8-minute train ride from Grand Central, so very centrally located.
Okay.
And we embarked on building out this new Elevator Learning Center, which is now just on steroids. It's amazing. If you build it, they will come. Well, that's what's happening. So very exciting to see what the future holds.
That's awesome. So what you envisioned, I mean, it sounds like initially it's just, hey, we need more people. But then as you made the investment, you could see that other companies would need the same people, the same
Well,
opportunity, if you
yeah,
will.
we knew we weren't the only one.
Sure.
We knew everybody was short of people. We figured let's make the investment and let's throw it out there. And at the time, it was being run under D&D Elevator. We had our own education program. We were already doing the training. We just kind of built it out and built a Schaeffer and a full cab and machinery and simulators and all the things you need, the hands-on training that you need to learn that goes with the textbook training of the CET program. All the curriculum still is the CET program. It's just that all of our enhanced and supplemental training revolves around that. And since August, we've really launched the Elevator Learning Center as a separate entity, and we've created a lot more than that since. A lot of exciting things that we can talk about.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So it sounds like it's kind of a nonprofit or something that just kind of operates there to serve the industry.
Well, it's not a nonprofit, but it is inexpensive. It's when you add up the cost of training today, the cost of a college degree, the cost of any kind of institutional
Sure.
technical institute. It's very, very affordable. We try to make it as flexible as possible. We try and work around people's schedules. We know mechanics are out in the field. So there's a lot of flexibility built into the delivery. If you have a gentleman who's come through 8 or 9 weeks of class, and then one night he can't make it to the class, well, we record all the classes. He can always remote in. If he can't get to the class, he can remote in. When he gets home, he can take the recording. There's some homework that goes with it. And there's certain requirements and things that have to be done in order for them to get credit for the class if they don't physically make it to class.
Very cool.
But all in all, it's about delivering education and trying to make sure it's not so much even that they make it to every single class, just that they capture it, they learn it, and they retain what they're learning. And if they can't learn it that night in class, there's a full, the instructors are all in contact with their people. We have an online chat room for each course that we deliver. Allows them to communicate with the instructor if they miss something, if they need tutoring. All that's done online.
Very cool. Very cool. So do you find that companies are mostly the ones signing up and sending their people, or is it individuals signing up and saying, hey, I want to get this training, want to advance my career?
It's a little of both. We've had, now that we've kind of got this thing where we want it with both the CET curriculum, the 4-year candidate program, and the continuing education for licensed mechanics, it's very surprising to us how many people are calling and communicating to us that they just want education and they just don't feel like there's enough out there. Um, the CT side, the candidate side, there are several companies that are not affiliated with AG who are signing up for the July semester. We have currently about 170 candidates for just for AEG alone in the program.
Wow.
And we've got about another 24, 25, I think, last count, of companies that have candidates that have signed up for July semester um, that are not affiliated with AEG.
Very cool.
So, and it's a very neutral ground. I mean, all we want to do is train and educate people.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether company A hires someone from AG one day, we want them to be fully trained. Whether, AG hires one of their people one day, we want them to be fully trained, both in skill, safety, of course, and process. Process is a big one.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like you're raising the bar of the entire industry because you're giving an opportunity for people. I mean, for example, I talked to a guy, it's been a few months ago, but he'd been in the industry a number of years and still had not received the training that he was hoping to get. So he's, been in 5 or 6 years. He's still not, on his way to becoming a certified mechanic because he hasn't been able to get that. So it sounds like you're putting that power.
We're putting the power in the hands of the employee, and they are going, actually, in some cases, they're going to their employer, and the employer, knowing that they don't have a place to go, they are actually offering reimbursement. So if the employee itself signs up and pays the fees and pays for the books and what have you, the employer actually reimburses it. That's been happening with the companies, the unaffiliated companies.
Very cool.
There's a lot of that. Some companies are just paying the whole way, and other companies are saying, hey, you sign up for it, you do it, we'll reimburse you. So there's a lot of that as well. And there is a lot of frustration. There are some people out there with 2-3 years in the business that just have not been able to take advantage of educational, because of COVID, a lot of the education programs that were out there just kind of stopped.
Yep.
And ours continued only because we could do it remotely. We were set up already to do it remotely. So that's what helped us continue.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. And this guy in particular that I mentioned, he was ready to leave the industry because he just didn't feel like because of COVID, a lot of things had shut down. He felt like he was stagnating and wanted to give up. So it's great that this type of program even exists.
Yeah. It's definitely, its time has come. It's really exciting to see, the other big thing is the continuing education. We're constantly, almost monthly now, building new titles. We've got about 40 hours approved for NACCT continuing education and continuing education for licensing in all the states. We actually have been getting it approved in other states as well that require licensing and continuing education. So that's exciting as well.
Talk to me a little bit about continuing education, because I think as I have understood it, somebody will come into an apprenticeship and they'll maybe become a mechanic after a certain number of years. But I've never heard, until you said it, I've never heard of continuing education requirements or offerings to continue to build upon that foundation. Is that?
Well, we can go back to probably 2000 when the legislation started, and really the CT program started almost simultaneously. Both the CT program and a lot of legislation where licensing was adopted on the state level requires some sort of continuing education each year, whether it be code updates, some technical training. There's a list based on the code, and a lot of states they'll look at it, and if they think it has good education for the elevator industry, then they'll approve it. And then if a person takes it in the CT program, it's 10 hours a year of continuing education to keep your certification. Most states require 8 hours a year of continuing education to keep their license. A lot of states require a license every 2 years, which means you would need 16 hours over a 2-year period. The big reason why it's probably an extra 2 hours on the CET side is because we also have safety is mandatory as well.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I was familiar with states, different states having different requirements, but I guess I just wasn't as familiar with the need to have the continuing education. And that's great. You
Yeah,
guys
and
building
and
that.
and the, and I think the cool part of what the Elevator Learning Center is delivering is you do have article-based training. Elevator World delivers article-based
Sure.
training. They're 1 or 2 hour, sessions where you can read an article, take a test, and that's good education as well. The NAC has some webinar, seminar type education. We're starting to build some of that. Most of what we're doing now is seminar based and is in-person learning, because most states only accept the in-person learning piece of it. So we're hoping to branch out onto some online, and that's just delivery methods and building a new LMS system for that to deliver and make sure that it's approved by basically not only the states, but education requirements as well. The nice part about continuing education, the nice part about doing it with ELC is we capture all your information, your licensing number, everything goes in our database. And then what we do is we actually chase you down the road. So we set up automatic reminders,
Oh,
email
nice.
reminders. So a guy who hasn't had to renew his license in 2 years, all of a sudden, 120 days out, 90 days out, he's getting reminders. Hey, get your education done. You got to renew. Here's, license is going to expire. And then when we send out those notices, it's not just about ELC. We actually provide links to every place where they have continuing education, whether it be Elevator World, whether it be the NACCT
Sure.
program. Wherever there's approved education, we'll also provide links, depending on the state, to what the state has accepted. So this way, everybody has all the information at their fingertip. We try and make it as easy as possible for them to renew their license.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm curious, what was some of the opposition that you first, that you encountered as you were trying to create this organization and create this Elevator Learning Center?
Well, not everybody wants you to be successful.
Sure.
It goes back to even when I started the CET program. As you know, I was very involved in the CET program early in my career when I stepped down as president of the NAC and took on the task of building an education program. And it really just came down to trying to create, I almost hate the term when people say we're the highest paid blue collar job in the industry, in all the industries. And that's true. It's a very, very lucrative career once you've gone through and you've educated yourself. But I'd rather call it a profession.
Sure.
And it's kind of where we want to go. We want people to be registered licensed professionals with credentials, and long term, that's what we really want to see. We just want everybody to have some credentials. It'll save a lot of lives, and it'll keep a lot of people safe and let people go home with their fingers in their toes, and that's just the way we feel about it. And hopefully it helps the companies, because if you can enhance skill level, and then you can enhance process level, more efficient, better skill work, doing it right the first time, minimizing rework, you lower your insurance costs. There's just so much benefit. The return on investment is 5 or 6-fold.
Easily. Like you say, yeah, if you get your insurance rates down and save fingers, toes.
And you bring your jobs in on time. Don't even agonize over bringing them in early. Bring them in on time. If you've got all your teams out there and all your repair teams and your maintenance mechanics, troubleshooters fixing it the first time, and your mod teams, the construction teams bringing it in the time estimated by the sales team, it's gold. It's pure gold. I mean, it's the mark of a successful company.
Sure.
If you have well-trained people.
Right. Well, and have them well trained, have them, obviously there's, labor people have been calculating the cost of turnover for a long time, and that obviously is a huge cost, but so is lack of training and all of the issues that go with that. So now I'm just kind of thinking in my head, you mentioned the 5 or 6 fold uh, ROI for having everybody trained, and I'm just trying to think, it sounds like you would have a much more effective company if you've got a team that's A, been around a while, B, they're all trained, and just could hit the mark, like you say, could bring jobs in on time every time, would be phenomenal.
Well, listen, I don't think any elevator mechanic and helper or any journeyman out there wants to be late, wants to fail at anything. You
Hmm.
know, there are some hard to fix problems out there, and there are some jobs where you're trying to engineer something. As we say, 10 pounds of, I'll be nice and say 10 pounds of crud in a 5 pound bag, right?
Sure.
So, with new code compliance and new appurtenances and new safety code, you're constantly adding, and nobody gives you more room to do that.
Sure.
You have an
Sure.
elevator shaft, an elevator motor room, and it's existing, and you do the best you can to engineer your way into it. So, they're not all easy. They're not all cookie cutter. So just bringing that job in on time, I think mechanics want to be proud of that. I know that I shouldn't say kids, but there are kids compared to me that have come up through the CT program and are now mechanics in the field that we've trained. Um, they wear it like a badge of honor that they're bringing their jobs in on time. They're proud of their work. They're constantly learning in better ways and taking their time to do it right the first time. That's something you have to teach. It's not
Sure.
always, doesn't come natural.
Sure. Sure. No, and it's yeah, it sounds like you're empowering the people, a lot of people, to kind of take it into their own hands, whereas maybe they couldn't before. They were kind of waiting on a
Well,
company
I
or
mean, it's always been kind of fractured when you think about it. I mean, a lot of companies, they'll train a guy to go a certain spot. Yeah,
sure.
he'll put in what we call a group one package. Maybe he'll run the wiring, but then some adjuster comes and wires it all up and tunes it all up, and he's on to the next elevator. He never really got a chance to learn, the
Sure.
entire thing from start to finish. With our program, we teach everything from start to finish. It's the
Okay.
full view. It's the full thing. There are guys out there for years that just stacked rails and maybe put slings and platforms in, and that was the end of their job. They moved because they might have had 40 elevators in that building to do, or 30 elevators. So just
Sure.
moved from team to team, and that was the only way to really get it done because they weren't going to make all new mechanics as quick as they needed them. Unfortunately, they weren't pushed to continue learning the next step and the next step and
Sure.
the next step. And a lot of them, unfortunately, they lose time in the field, because maybe they're on the bench, or maybe, you have a big repair job, but you can't hire a construction guy for that because he just doesn't
Doesn't
know
know
enough
it.
about repair. So what we're trying to do is teach everything. The more you know, the more you're worth. And
Sure.
that's just the way it is. And you really, you really can make your mark on the industry and really write your own ticket if you're a skilled professional.
Sure. So let's say, for example, I'm a frustrated mechanic and just not getting the training I need. What I need to do to take some
Well,
classes to sign up.
one of the things we'll do, first thing is reach out to us. We can describe the services and what we provide. What we like to do, depending on where you are in your career, is we do some assessments, some skill assessments, kind of get a measurement. Where are you? How much learning? How much training do you have? And then based on that, we'll make a recommendation of where we think you might want to start. Either maybe you want to test out of the first 2 years, which is possible. Maybe you've got a lot of time in and you just never really, you just want to do some continuing education, or you already have a license and you don't need the CT program. So we might recommend we have some everything from basic troubleshooting and sequence up to we every month we have simulated training. We have manufacturers come in. Our calendar, elevatorlearningcenter.com has a calendar every month. We have at least one or two simulation trainings with the manufacturers, sometimes with us, sometimes with the manufacturers. We have all the simulators. I think we're up to 8 different simulators that we have in the training center. Keb Drive just did a class. We have another one booked for June. Anybody who's interested in learning about Keb Drive. So even if you're a mechanic, there's something for everybody.
Sure.
And the services run the gambit. If your company is willing to reimburse you, then you would pay for the books and the application fee to join the CET program. And then there's for us to basically run your program for you, it's about $950 per year per head, which is very, very affordable when you
Sure.
think about proctoring tests and skill sign-offs and in-classroom training and remote training and tutoring and mentoring and everything built in there. It's pretty good. And for a mechanic, it's, I think, $399 for the year. And what that subscribes you to is all of the continuing education, all the seminars, everything that we offer is yours to be able to get your continuing education and meet your licensing requirements.
Very cool. So and I'm just curious, if let's say I'm working out of North Carolina and your office and simulators are all in New York, how can I take advantage of that? Do I need to travel to Long Island City, and what's kind of the difference there?
Well, we are opening up some regions. We just had a regional simulated training for 2 days in Lexington, Kentucky,
Okay.
one of our affiliated companies. We're getting ready to do some simulated training down in Tampa and then in Miami. So we're trying to take it to where people need it. I can't guarantee if it's 1 or 2 people that we're going to show up for you, but if we can get enough people in that area that are looking for that kind of training, we'll bring it to you. And that's kind of the goal. And then same thing with CT. We had a person in Texas who wanted to try and help us run their program. And we said, listen, if you allow us to run your program and you let us run the program for you, and you need a CTS to sign off, we'll fly one out to you and we'll sign off for you. We'll do everything. Everything you need, we'll do it because that's what you're paying for.
Cool. No, that's great. I was just curious how that would work, because it sounds like
Yeah,
you're getting there.
we hope to have at least 5 or 6 regions covered this year with simulated training. And we're opening up to everyone, not just the affiliated companies. Affiliated companies is who are going to host it.
Sure.
Because they have the training, rooms and what have you. But it's open to anybody in the area if they want to send mechanics there. They sign up, subscribe, and not only for the simulated training, but any of they can remote into any of the online instruction. Like I say, we videotape everything, record everything. And then we also, if they want to sign up for one, they can just come in remote and get the learning that way.
It's awesome. So this is great, and I appreciate you explaining it. And kind of for my last question, unless there's something else you wanted to kind of go into, I think we've covered a lot of it. But the last question, I just wanted to say, let's fast forward 5 or 10 years, and what is your vision of the industry? Assuming that they take advantage of the Elevator Learning Center and then that it grows the way that you hope.
Well, I think solving the technician shortage, I don't think we're done yet. I think it's going to get worse. Back in 2002, there was a memo put out where they talked about almost a 40% attrition rate,
Wow.
mechanics retiring between 2002 2012. That came to pass. Then you add in especially in the New York area, you add in the requirements for QEI inspections and what have you, and that kind of pulled a lot of senior technicians away from the daily grind of troubleshooting and fixing and servicing elevators to inspecting elevators.
Sure.
Because it's pretty lucrative too. Of course, you have to be seasoned for that to happen to get that kind of a gig. But that pulled on it even further. And here we are, 20 years later, and we still have a labor shortage. So shame on us, right?
Sure.
So we're doing something about it. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we still may have a labor shortage. You still may not get enough people to join, but at least the ones that are here and the ones that are learning and earning, they're going to be good at what they do. And I'm hoping eventually to see accidents down to nothing, safety incidents down to nothing. That would be a great goal, to just eliminate all the, I mean, it is the safest mode of transportation when you think about how many people
Sure.
elevators move in a given day. I'd love to see it just eliminate these kinds of tragedies, and also incidents due to human error.
Sure. No, it's a beautiful vision, and it sounds like as you take it into other areas of the country, you're just making it more available, more accessible for anybody that wants to get there, learn their profession, and do a great job at it.
Yeah, I don't know of any other, the other industries are probably doing it. Some other companies are probably doing it. I don't know if they're all open to everybody who wishes to participate, and that's what we're about. I don't care who learns, as long as they're learning. And the only thing I'll say as the last plug is get on the website. It's elevatorlearningcenter.com. View all the different tabs, view the course calendar. A lot of good stuff on there. I think it's going to be updated this week. So anybody who sees this through June, July, August, a lot of really good education. I welcome everybody to sign up and get involved in it.
Awesome. Elevatorlearningcenter.com, correct?
That's correct.
Bobby, thank you so much. It's been a privilege as always, and I wish you the very best.
Thanks so much for all your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. You can check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.